In today's subscriber story, the subscriber had a babysitter over and she caught him. I don't want to spoil it. Enjoy the story. So this all took place when the subscriber was 14 years old. And for most people, that's a little bit too old to have a babysitter. However, the subscriber recently broke one of his parents' rules. He didn't necessarily go into it too that much in detail, but basically, right, he was grounded, and he was grounded for a week. And the parents were going out that night, and they really just wanted to make sure he didn't leave or go out and play with friends because, he was grounded. So they decided as part of the punishment, they would, hire a babysitter. And at first he was pretty humiliated because a babysitter, in his opinion, at 14, he was definitely old enough to take care of himself. If you had a babysitter at 14, there's nothing weird with that. The subscriber was just pretty mature for his age, and his parents knew he could definitely take care of himself. However, since he was still under their punishment, they hired a babysitter as almost part of the punishment. It was they knew he could take care of himself, but they were as part of the punishment, you're also getting a babysitter on top of that. So to say the least, he was not pleased. Parents were going out to some party or some event or something. They weren't going to be back till 11, 12, 1, probably, he said late in the night, so we're going to say 1 or something. And, the babysitter got there and, the subscriber was upstairs, but he kind of overheard, he kind of went to his door to listen to what his parents were telling the babysitter because he was kind of curious because he was okay, how are they going to explain why I need a babysitter, right? And the parents explained to the babysitter, hey, our son's kind of old, but we grounded him recently and we just really want to make sure that he doesn't go out. So under no conditions can he A, go outside, B, have any friends over, and basically just A and B. He can't go outside. He can't have friends over. This is almost like a punishment. It's not just you making sure he's okay. It's you making sure that he doesn't break any of the rules of the grounded of being grounded, right? Because he's still grounded for the next couple days. This was kind of unfortunate for the subscriber because he kind of planned to have a friend over if the babysitter wasn't told. Because he was kind of hoping his parents would just be hey, make sure he doesn't go outside and yeah, just watch over him and leave without saying a lot. So then he could just have a friend over while his parents weren't there. And it would be kind of a nice break because he hasn't had a friend over in a while. But no, right? They specifically tell the babysitter, no, he also can't have anyone over. So he's yeah, I guess I'm just staying here the night again, which is kind of annoying. But then he thinks to himself, this whole being grounded thing is kind of annoying. He said to me in the DM saying that, what he got, he didn't specify, why he was grounded, but he said it was kind of dumb and, it definitely didn't deserve the punishment that he got. And at the time, he was, really, really thought that the punishment didn't fit the crime, right? So he was you know what? This is a Friday night. I want to hang out with my friends, and I'm going to hang out with my friend. He's coming over tonight. And he said, and the subscriber's okay, how is this going to work? So the subscriber calls one of his friends and he says, hey, can you come over in a couple hours? And he's yeah, sure. He's yeah, do you want to play some Xbox? He's yeah, of course. And then the subscriber says, hey, by the way, I'm going to need you to sneak in. And the guy's why? And he's okay, so I'm not technically allowed to have anyone over right now. And he's explains that he's grounded and that he has a babysitter. And his friend's dude, why do you have a babysitter? He's don't even let me get into it, right? Don't get me started on that one. But he's okay, so you got to come over. I want you to come over. And the dude's yeah, of course. You got to sneak in. And the guy's so I can't just come through the front door. He says, no. And he's okay, dude, you're on the second floor. How am I supposed to get there? So he says, okay, outside my window is a very big tree. And it's a tree that's somewhat easy to climb. And the tree is right outside my window. So just climb the tree. And then you don't have to jump, but you have to make a bit of a leap of faith. And the guy's okay. And he's dude, I've done it before. It's not an actual jump. It's just you got to stretch over. It's not that big of a deal. I'm making it sound a lot worse than it is. Just come over. And the guy's all right, fine. If it's actually I can't make it, then I can't make it, but I'll at least come over and try. Pause. Subscribe if you like story videos. Thanks. Anyways, back to the story. Subscriber's just in his room and he has the Xbox with him. Thankfully, for him, his parents, while grounding him, didn't take away his Xbox, which was a little strange. He definitely expected the Xbox to be something to go. Because if he wasn't able to see his friends or able to go outside, okay, but he's able to stay inside playing video games, was whatever, right? His parents allowed him. He was not complaining, to say the least. So he's kind of just chilling there, he's playing it on his Xbox, and he looks down at his phone, and he's kind of just waiting for, his friend to text him, because his friend was going to, send him a text, when he was, 5 minutes away, and when he was, actually there. So he's just playing on his Xbox, and he gets a text 5 minutes away, right? So he's just chilling there, he's waiting, and then 5 minutes go by and he's there. He sends a text saying, "Hey, I'm here." So the guy like pauses his game and he goes out and he just like looks outside. And he can see like at the very foot of the driveway, he sees the friend kind of like looking up and waving. And he like quickly sends him a text like, "Yo, the babysitter is inside. I don't know if she's looking out any windows. You can't be that obvious. You got to like really sneak in. Don't wave to me." He said that probably in fewer words and faster, but that was the gist of what he texted him, right? So the subscriber like, or the friend, and let's just call him the friend, right? The friend looks down at his phone, is like, "Oh shoot," like, right. So he kind of like crouches together and he kind of like sneaks behind. It's dark out at this point, so he's got a lot of cover by the dark, and he goes to the back of the tree. And the subscriber can't really see if he's successfully climbing or not because he's climbing on the back side of the tree as opposed to the front side, which obviously makes sense because he's not trying to be obvious, or at least trying to be out of sight as much as possible. So he hears rustling in the tree, and then he eventually sees, like, facing him, like, eye to eye, he sees that he meets eyes with his friend. So he's like, "Okay, good. All you got to do is just, like, make it to my room." And the friend looks, right? And he looks, and it's a two-story drop, right? He's on the second floor, and he looks down. And all you really have to do is, like, reach over and kind of swing your weight properly to get into the room, because the subscriber ended up opening the window for him to come in, and the dude's like, "All right, man, I'm trusting you." As the friend is about to like lunge over to enter into the window, he steps on part of the branch that's like smaller. It cracks and he loses his footing. And the subscriber's like, "Oh, no, no, no." And like all these branches kind of fall down, and he just like looks at the friend regains his balance, and the subscriber looks at him with like shush over, like the finger up to his mouth, like, "Shh, okay, like quiet, quiet, quiet." Like, and he hears like the babysitter like get up and assumes that she looks out the window because like there's a kind of a big crash of like leaves and stuff. She probably want to see if there's like an animal in the front yard or whatever. And he's just like, "Chill there, chill there." And then he hears the babysitter go back to sit back down. He's like, "Okay, you can come over." So the friend kind of lunges over, leans in, and, gets into the window. And he kind of tumbles in, which is like, it made a bit of a thud. But it like the babysitter didn't come up for some reason. So he was chill with that. So, him and his friend, the whole point of him being there was to play some rounds of Xbox together. So they're playing the game, and, he's kind of always like, he's like, "Okay, you got to be kind of quiet. Like, if you lose, you can't, like, get that upset, right? You can't be that angry. It's just a game, but also I can't have friends over, and if, the babysitter hears someone else, it's going to be suspicious, and she'll definitely walk upstairs," right? So they're playing the game, and there's been a few close calls at this point. Like, he's been like, "Ugh," and then, like, the subscriber looks at him, and he shuts up pretty closely, right? But then they have a really close, like, 1v1. I don't know what game it's on, right? But they have a 1v1, and it's really, really close. The match is really close, but then the subscriber barely pulls through and, like, wins by a hair. And the friend was so like into the game that he kind of forgot, where he was, in a sense that like he's like not supposed to actually be there and they're secretly playing games. So he kind of like yells out. He's like, he said, he yells something out, and then the subscriber just looks at him like, "Oh no, dude." Because he yelled really loud and like really clearly. I don't know exactly what he yelled, but he made enough noise and was pretty obviously not the voice of like the subscriber himself. So all of a sudden they just go really quiet because they're like, "Did the babysitter hear it? She definitely heard it, but does she think that's just me yelling in my own room, or is she coming up?" They stay quiet for a second. They listen, and it's about like 15 seconds, right? So they kind of feel like they're in the clear, and they're about to go back to play another round when they hear like bump, 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 steps up the stairs. So the subscriber starts to panic because he's like, "This dude is in my room. I can't explain him if he's in my room," right? That's just like, there's no return. Bump, 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 more coming up the stairs, and it's only one flight of stairs. So the guy's like, okay, okay, okay. The subscriber's like panicking, but he's also thinking as quickly as possible. He scans quickly around the room. He's like, okay, under the bed, no, because there like wasn't enough space because there's like a bunch of stuff up there and it couldn't be quick enough. Then he sees his closet. He points at the closet. He's like, "Fast." The friend knew what he was doing, which is good that the friend was paying attention because he was very quick to it. He saw the closet. He knew exactly what to do. He ran into the closet, closed it, didn't close it too quickly, and they just like waited. And then, 10 seconds later, the subscriber hears a knock on the door. The babysitter's like, "Can I come in?" And the subscriber's like, "Yeah, sure, come on in." And the subscriber goes up to unlock the door because he locked the door beforehand just so the babysitter wouldn't like rant wildly, let's just like open the door, and they had like no heads up, right? So we unlock the door and the babysitter comes in. And she's just like, hey, I heard a noise. Like, oh, do you have someone over? You know, you're not supposed to have someone over, right? He's like, yeah, no one's here. And she said, okay, I heard a noise and it pretty clearly wasn't you, right? And the subscriber explains that he was playing a 1v1 and he happened to be on voice call and he just had his volume up really loud so that like the other person he's playing against, that like they made a noise when he lost to like the subscriber and it was just really loud. He said, my fault, like I'll definitely turn down the volume. I wasn't even aware that it was that loud. And the babysitter kind of looked at him and she wasn't 100% convinced, but she looked around the room like really quickly and obviously no one was there, right? And then she sees the window and the window is wide open. And she's like, why is that window open? And the subscriber's like, it's just too hot in here. And thank God that this happened like over the summer. Because if this happened like in the dead of winter or at any other time, right, that open window would be very hard to like explain away. But thank God it was actually kind of hot out. Like it was cooling down because it was night, but it was summertime. So he had an explanation for why the window's open. She kind of looks at him. Everything, like the thing is she's suspicious at this point. But at this point, like there's no one in the room. He explained the noise to some degree. He explained the window open to some degree. But she still feels like that noise actually came from a person. So she kind of looked at him and said, all right, like, just stay out of trouble. Don't have people over. He's like, yeah, of course. So she goes back downstairs. Today's secret word is closet. So if you made it this far into the video, I'd like you to go down to the comment section and comment closet. I just like to see how many people actually made it this far into the video. And I will try and heart as many of those comments as I can find. So like if you want to like farm some hearts and get top commenter, just make sure to comment closet in the comment section. With that being said, back to the story. So the subscriber is just like hanging out for a second. He's giving it like a couple minutes and he receives a text and it's from his friend who's in the closet right now being like, yo, can I come out? And he says just 30 more seconds because they've been waiting for a couple minutes now. And then after a little while, he sends a text to his friend like, okay, you're clear. So the friend comes out. They decide to play a couple more games, but they're already kind of on edge because of the whole situation that just went down. So they run through some more games and then, they decide like, okay, we're probably good at this point. Like, he was kind of feeling a little off, the subscriber was feeling a little off, and they're like, okay, maybe you should just go home at this point. Like, it's like 12, like my parents will be back soon anyways. Like, thanks for coming over, basically, but it's time to go. Because the exit wasn't going to be the easiest thing either, because, right, I mean, he had to get out of the, he had to come out the same way that he came in, right? He can't just go downstairs and exit through the front door. So he, he goes over to the window and it's open and he looks at the tree and he kind of like turns to his friend. He's like, that looks farther away than I imagined, right? Than I remembered. And the subscriber's like, no, it's like, if anything, it's it's easier to get out than to get back in. And the friend's like, okay, that's fair enough. And so the friend, he goes over, kind of leans out and gets onto the tree and makes his way down. And the subscriber's just kind of watching, just kind of a little nervous. And on the way down, he hits a false branch and like a bunch of like branches break. And he doesn't fall that far. He doesn't actually get hurt or anything, but enough branches break that it makes a decent noise. And the subscriber kind of like falls like 3 or 4 feet, right? And so, not the subscriber, the friend does. And the subscriber's looking outside like, oh, shoot. And the friend is like, kind of like panicking a little bit. So then like the friend just kind of runs out of the yard. And the subscriber's like, okay, that was a really close call, but I think we're good. Turns out the babysitter happened to be in the kitchen making herself like a thing of tea or something. She was in the kitchen for some reason. And the kitchen is right above his bedroom. And there's a big window and the tree is in front of the kitchen window. So she was sitting there, heard a crash, saw someone fall out of the tree and run out. Subscriber's there. He hops onto some like solo games on his Xbox. And then he hears, thump, 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 like steps up the stairs. And he's like, no way she knows. And sure enough, he hears a knock on the door and he's like, yeah, what's up? She's like, hey, can I come in? And he's like, yeah, yo, what's up? She's like, yeah, just let me in. He kind of knew by that tone that things were not going to be good. And she opens the door and she says, hey, like you can't have people over. And he's like, yeah, I didn't. She said, don't lie to me. He's like, I'm not lying to you. And she said, okay, why did I see someone fall out of the tree and run away from your room? And he just looks at her like, this no response. And she says, okay. Fortunately, when the parents come back, the babysitter explains what happens because, that's her job and everything. There's no reason for her to lie. And yeah, this kid gets grounded for 2 weeks, not like 2 weeks in total, like from add 1 week onto his last week, 2 weeks, like adding on to his already 1 week of being grounded. So that's unfortunate for him, but it is what it is. Subscribe, and after you've done that, go watch an old video. Easy way to do that is Storytime playlist. Peace.